Hello and welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to look at the first ever Japanese Sonic TV series, 2003's Sonic X. I'll give you a bit of background on the show and why it was such a big deal at the time, followed by a look at the original Japanese release before moving on to its Western localization. This video isn't a full review of the series, but that is coming. I'll explain why at the end. If you're new here, by the way, consider subscribing for frequent evergreen Sonic and Sega videos. Hit that like button if you enjoy the video, and leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Now let's begin. Sonic X was a huge deal for me back in the day, as a Western Sonic fan. See, prior to Sonic X, Sega would allow other regions to adapt Sonic the Hedgehog to different media and basically do whatever the hell they wanted with it, within reason. Whatever the different territories best felt would suit their target audience. It was a time before mandates. A Sonic lore Wild West. It's how we ended up with so many different interpretations of the character and his world in the early years of the series. For example, Sonic in the West, he lived on the planet Mobius, regardless of which form of Sonic media you were consuming. Sonic in Japan though, it was all set on Earth. And speaking of Japan, they were no strangers to some weird Sonic adaptations too. Anyway, the Western TV shows in the 90s were all radically different in tone and setting, and featured very few characters and locations from the games on which they were based. This started with the wacky and goofy Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog in 1993, which seemed to take its influences from Looney Tunes and Ren and Stimpy, alongside another 1993 adaptation, the dark and gritty Sat AM, which told the story of a band of freedom fighters trying to overthrow the tyrannical Dr. Robotnik who had enslaved most of the planet. Followed finally by Sonic Underground in 1999. Whatever the fuck that was supposed to be, I did a video on it, link in the description. Growing up, I liked Sat AM, despite it being a very different take on the series, but in my heart of hearts, I was a Sega Sonic boy through and through. I love the world of the video games and their Japanese roots, first and foremost. So imagine my excitement when I learned in 2002 that we were finally getting a brand new anime Sonic series made in Japan with Sonic Team's heavy involvement. I was thrilled. Prior to this, the only Sonic animation made in Japan, outside of promotional shorts and advertisements, was the original video animation in 1996. Later rebranded as Sonic the Hedgehog the movie for Western audiences and released in 1999. And despite its flaws and some odd casting choices for the Western dub, I felt it was by far the best Sonic animation we'd gotten, featuring more game characters than we'd seen in past TV adaptations, as well as better fight scenes and action sequences that looked like they were straight out of the video games. So my hopes for Sonic X were high. Sonic X was coming about at a time when Sonic had a pretty consistent storyline connected from game to game. Sonic Adventure 1 followed on from the classic series. Sonic Adventure 2 followed on from Sonic Adventure 1. Sonic Heroes, despite a shift in art style, more or less followed on from Sonic Adventure 2. And eventually, we'd get Shadow the Hedgehog in 2005, which again felt like a continuation. It was all ripe to be adapted into an animation, and from everything I'd seen in the promotional materials at the time, it looked like they'd be doing just that. Sonic, Shadow, Amy, Rouge, super forms with Chaos Emeralds that work as they do in the game, all in a series? Everything about this was looking great. It was a series set in the Two Worlds continuity, where Sonic came to Earth from another world, without specifically saying Mobius. It seemed like a great merger of Western and Japanese lore, which would finally create a consistent backstory for the series. It's just a shame it didn't last. A younger me was constantly checking fansite sonicanime.net for news on the series in the run-up to its release and during its run. Eventually, soon after the series aired on TV Tokyo in 2003, a team of fan-subbers were straight on the case, and I was able to check out the show soon after it aired in Japan. And without going into too much detail, as a separate review will come later, I mostly loved it. The animation, particularly in the opening episode, was fantastic. It featured great action sequences in a world that looked like it was straight out of the Adventure series, and a fantastic opening credits sequence that told a mini-story all of its own, while showing off all the characters we had to look forward to as the series progressed, including Super Sonic, all backed by an awesome Japanese rock track called Sonic Drive. I really liked what I was seeing here, and with upcoming episode titles such as Clash, Sonic vs. Knuckles, I knew I was onto a good thing. Unfortunately, the wait between fan subs was quite lengthy, and they seemed to stop entirely for a while, unless I was looking in the wrong places, so I looked to other means to get my Sonic X Japanese fix. I eventually found knockoff DVD sets of the first 26 episodes listed on eBay, so I gave them a shot. I'll be honest, I had no confidence that these would be accurately subtitled. I thought, at best, they would be passable. But I just wanted to see the show. So, sure enough, when the DVDs arrived, they were as crap as I'd expected. All the episodes were there, ripped straight from TV Tokyo, complete with the time they aired in the corner. And as I knew deep down from the moment I ordered them, the subtitles were abysmal. Broken English, filled with typos and punctuation errors, and shits and F-bombs left, right, and center. I was gonna go up into my attic looking for these things to take a look through the subtitles, but fortunately I found a post on Reddit from 2018 where someone had already uploaded stills from this awful sub. Let's look at a few. Oh, I remember this one. They didn't even get the characters' names right. Everyone, meet Sonic's trusty sidekick, Dillus. He stays with Sonic every time. Some words of wisdom from Chris Thorndike here. There seems to have so-called hedgehog fodders. Cat hedgehogs are okay too. As any Sonic fan will know, if you can collect 7 green sparklers, if you can do that. Oh, and never forget these words of wisdom. Inopportune. I am a gourmet. Anyway, I gave up. I knew there was an English dub from 4Kids right around the corner, so I decided to wait for that, rather than waste my time with these sketchy subtitles. The 4Kids dub. In September of 2003, the English language dub of Sonic X was released in the USA, and it was a stinker. I don't want to be super negative here. I get that this is a kids show, but this version is worse than the Japanese version in literally every way. First, a quick positive though, the voice cast. This series introduced many of the cast that went on to voice the video game counterparts for some years afterwards, including Jason Griffith as both Sonic and Shadow, and the wonderful Mike Pollock, who still provides the English language voice of Dr. Eggman to this day. So, no problems here. The cast do a good job. Unfortunately though, I have nothing else good to say about this dub. So let's talk negatives, starting with minor annoyances and finishing with the main reason I can't sit through this version of the show. Firstly, a small one. The opening credits. I'm not gonna sit here and knock the USA theme tune because it's fine. Good even. It spawned a new catchphrase for Sonic, which is still used to this day. Gotta go fast. And musically it fit right in with the kind of pop-punk that was popular at the time. But one of the things I really liked about the opening credits of the Japanese show was that it told a mini self-contained story of its own, apparently made from footage taken from a 3-minute pilot animation. Look at this clip. Now let's look at how they butchered the opening credits for the American version. Gotta go fast, gotta go fast, gotta go faster, 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 faster. So a nice little mini story for an opening sequence in Japan was hacked to bits with clips from episodes thrown in all over the place. Oh, but hey, at least it's not as bad as the Jetix one we got in the UK. Listen to our song. Yuck. Censorship. The censorship in Sonic X is a mess. While I won't dive into it at length here, although that may make for a good video sometime, and although not all of the changes are show ruiners, some of them are so damn stupid it makes the US version impossible to take seriously. You get standard stuff here, like changing the sound of guns to laser sounds, despite them clearly being guns of the bullet-firing variety. But some of the other changes are far sillier. Let's look at an example that has always stuck in my mind. In episode 17, Knuckles ends up in a location looking for information on his new human pal Hawk. In the Japanese version, he's in a sketchy bar filled with shady characters you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of. Some real undesirables in here. Clearly, Knuckles is meant to be in a dangerous place. Not somewhere that even I, a beer enthusiast, would want to hang out in. But clearly, 4Kids thought children might find something appealing about this location that I didn't, and weren't comfortable with a bar being in their version of the show. Kids would see this dank, rundown shithole and think,
when I grow older, that's where I want to spend my time.
So to play it safe, 4Kids edited the venue to instead be a grimy, rundown, sketchy fast food restaurant. Eating in a place like this is gonna make you real sick, real fast. The kind of fast food joint where the most dangerous members of society go when they're looking to pound back a few hamburgers and start trouble with other patrons after a few too many french fries. A truly ridiculous change. But let's move on to the main reason I cannot stand this dub. The music. Not the intro song, that's fine, but literally everything else that plays during the episodes. This show never shuts the fuck up or lets any of the scenes breathe. Really, every scene, every moment, every action, every camera angle change cues up another piece of loud, stupid, over-the-top music. It's constant, and it is exhausting.
Count me out. This is where I get off.
No! Don't go!
See you around.
Hi, girls! Hello! Hi! Hey! Hiya, girls!
Look, I get it. It's a series made for kids, and the thought pattern here from the decision makers was obviously that if there's any silence, it may lose the kids' attention. But that's just not true. If it's a good show, kids will watch. Sat AM managed to keep kids hooked in the 90s, and that was a dark, moody show compared to this. I guarantee you don't need to keep playing a trumpet every 3 seconds to keep kids interested if the show is genuinely enjoyable. And Sonic X is a good show. Or rather, there is a good show in there, somewhere, underneath all the 4Kids muck. In the interest of fairness to the dub, I feel I should mention that the USA version of Sonic X was by far the most successful, pulling in far more viewers than other territories. But I would assume that this was down to the popularity of the brand in the region, as opposed to the constant and unbearable noise 4Kids thought it would be a great idea to add to the series. I've had non-stop tinnitus for many years now, and I'd take that high-pitched ringing sound any day over sitting through an episode of 4Kids Sonic X, and I'm only actually half joking when I say that. Unfortunately, at the time of recording, the only way to legally stream this show in the UK is on Netflix, and they only have the 4Kids version. I tried to give it another chance, but I just can't get through a single episode. So I'm not going to do a full review of this series for the time being, as I don't have a way to revisit it just yet in its true form. But that is coming, as in October of 2022, US media company Discotek announced that they had licensed Sonic X and that a full Blu-ray set containing every episode of the original Japanese series in the highest possible quality, fully uncensored, would be released in the winter of 2023. As soon as that drops, I will embrace it with open arms, and a review on this channel will follow shortly afterwards. Thank you so much for watching this video. What did you think of Sonic X? Did you watch the original Japanese version? Did you watch the Western dub? Did the music and other changes bother you as much as it did me, or am I being ridiculous? Please let me know in the comments because I read every single one of them. So again, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button as it helps me out a lot, and consider subscribing for evergreen high quality Sonic and Sega videos. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.